Hi everyone, and welcome to another of my climate change due to the burden of fossil fuel debunking video. In this presentation, I will be exploring the real causes of climate change and looking into changes that we can do as humans to influence or mitigate its influence on our personal life. We will be looking into concrete actions, not the ones proposed to us by the asinine action of stop burning fossil fuel. We will be given concrete and scientifically backed and proven methods as to how we can soften the blow of climate change and make life um, as best as possible in our environment, which is the closest and most intimate climate that we have, our environment. In this slide, we will be defining what exactly is a climate. What is climate? Climate is defined as the long-term or prevailing weather pattern, or more rigorously, it is the mean and variability of meteorological variables in a region, typically average over a 30-year period. Climate is regional and does not vary considerably and varies considerably in both size and long-term weather variability. Climate can be placed into one of three general groups, which are polar zone, temperate zone, and tropical zone. Each general zone can then be subdivided into more specific climatic zone based on weather pattern more specific to that region. The most common system used to classify climate zone is the Köppen classification system. This system is based on the temperature, the amount of precipitation or rain, and the time of year when the precipitation occurs, as illustrated by the diagram on the right. So there are the diagram. You can see different coloration based on the various different type of climate, and as you can see, there's at least 20, about 30 or more different climates that we can explore in the world as we know it. In this slide, we'll be clarifying what does the climate alarmist actually means by when he says or they says climate change. It's important to acknowledge what they actually mean. Climate alarmists treat the world as if it is one big global climate, and we all know that the world is made up of many different climates. When they use the term climate change, they are specifically implying climate change due to the burn of fossil fuels such as natural gas, coal, gasoline, and diesel, and with it the subsequent increase in carbon dioxide and concentration in the atmosphere. Their claim is that climate change represents an existential threat to life on Earth as we know it, due to the dropping of heat and the raising of temperature of the atmosphere, as illustrated by a diagram now shown on the right. So on this diagram, it shows that with climate change, we're going to be facing economic losses, more or worse drought, animal extinction, more forest fires, more worse storm, rising temperature. This is all that the climate change is asserting based on the increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and this is so wrong, so wrong. Here are the salient and absolute facts that I will be proving scientifically about climate change. They are as follows. The burning of fossil fuel has nothing to do with the change of any of the numerous climates on Earth. climate change is real and natural, continuous thing. In all the Earth existence in climate has never stopped changing. Climate growth swings between two extremes in many natural cycles and also with considerable varying cycle time. Change is only consistent is only constant in nature. Climate change does not represent an existential threat to humanity. Mankind also play a very important role in climate of the area of the earth in which he call home and can be very effective in adjusting to or adjusting the climate to themselves. This is what we'll be looking at mainly in this presentation. And as you can see on the right, cooperation is what cooperation and respect for our environment in all respect to our environment is one of the main factors in which we can personally um, affect and control our climate down to the very specific area in which we live. Here we'll be now looking at the real causes of climate change, and they are as follows. There are two major categories of climate change, two major category that climate change can be attributed to. Number one is the numerous natural cycle or progression of which are of drastic varying difference in time period and of which we as human has no control over and include some global phenomena such as ice age cycle of cold period or glacials and warm period interglacial and roughly 100,000 year cycle or at least the last 1 million year are initiated by changes in the Earth orbital around the Sun called Milankovitch cycles. Milankovitch cycles. The Sun progression, the life of the Sun progression as the Sun get older, or an eruption cycle that involves the change in its thermal or radiant energy output. Very important. The sun can also throw more heat and energy at the earth at different time in its cycle or in its lifespan, and the earth has to deal with it one way or the other. Another cycle is the cyclic change in earth rotational axis amount to roughly 1 degree every 74 years. One major effect of precession is that at different times during the cycle, the season will be either more or less extreme in the northern or southern hemisphere. The second reason why we might have cause for climate change is man direct changing of the environment in which he lives. Man use man use of the environment for his existence or man abuse of the environment most time for profit. So these are the main reasons for the cause of change in the world in the climates of the world. And for the rest of the presentation, we will be um, paying attention onto the one on which man has direct control, meaning the one that affect the environment. And as the great David Bellamy says, global warming is part of natural cycle. There's nothing we can do to actually stop these cycles. The world is now spending a vast amount of money in tax to try to solve a problem that does not exist. This man knows that there's a lot of natural cycles that we cannot control. We doesn't have any control. So why try to control what we cannot control? But pay attention to the areas that we can control, and this is what the rest of this presentation will spend time on and try to illustrate. What is the environment? The environment, also known as the ecosystem, is a set of interrelated components in a specific area functioning together as a unit for the benefit and well-being of all living organisms. The interrelation components in an environment includes one, the, the biotic component, which includes all plant, animals, and microorganisms, and two, the abiotic or non-living physical component, which including building, road, trees, sand, rocks. I think you get the idea. Now we are part of our environment, and environment is a part of us, and are very much both interrelated, dependent on each other. If we take care of our environment will sustain and take care of us. All biotic organism on Earth is organic or carbon based and have a high percentage of water. The same goes for all hospitable environments. They are all mainly organic in nature and with a high percent of water content and inorganic content kept to a manageable minimum. And as such, the destruction of our environment is drastically reducing its organic and water content and increasing its inorganic content will therefore inevitably have adverse consequences on how hospitable the environment remains to us. As you can see on the right, you see a little squirrel in his environment and a tree living very happily. You know, he's in unison with his environment. He looks very fat. He looks very healthy. So therefore, he's quite fine. And this is how we as humans has to interact with our environment. We will now have a look at the four interrelated sectors of an environment. They are as follows. One, the biosphere. Biosphere has everything to do with all the living organisms on Earth. Two, the atmosphere. Most of us know what the atmosphere is. It has everything to do with the gaseous layers that is above and surround the Earth's surface. Three, the hydrosphere. This is the aquatic environment and has everything to do with our water, the oceans, sea, rivers, lakes, water in the clouds, underground water. It also involves the water cycle and how it links all these bodies of water together. And finally, the lithosphere, the terrestrial environment, which has everything to do with the land, with its inanimate and inorganic substances such as the earth crust, that includes the soil, rock, sand, and other building materials such as used in the making of cities such as bricks, concrete, metal, glass, and asphalt, just to mention a few. It also includes all the minerals and all the minerals found in the earth crust. These are all the lithosphere. Environmental change, the real cause of climate change. Climate change involves changing the land-based material and substance in our environment from mostly water-infused organic material to dry and inorganic material by the three following interrelated activities. They are: one, denuding the land of vegetation, the progressive destruction of the water cycle and compromising the water cycle to the land itself, destroying the quality of the soil by decreasing its organic and water content, progressively turning it into unproductive dirt, which will compromise the utility to life. Now we'll be looking at the factors affecting the environment, and they are as follows. One, increase industrialization. Two, increase urbanization, more house, roads, and people. Increase deforestation. Increase land mismanagement and abuse. Decrease plant and animal diversity. more monocrops for food crops and animal husbandry, more soil exhaustion and exploitation, more strain and, and compromise on and off the water cycle. We will now look at the effects of environmental destruction. Desertification is a result of pronounced and continued environmental destruction, with the following becoming more and more sensible. Environment become hotter and drier. Rainfall and thunderstorms are more torrential and less frequent. Soil erosions are more pronounced. Rich, healthy soil turned into tough, unproductive dirt, devoid of its water and organic content. The land foliage plant is changing from a lush, succulent tree to more hardly heat-resistant bush vegetation. The natural fauna, animal of the area migrate from the area or go extinct. And finally, noticeable annual decreased utility of the land in terms of food and agricultural production, as the land carrying capacity continues to fall even with the use of pesticides and fertilizers. And here comes the science to explain and verify it all. It's time to actually involve and include the science behind what was already explained. And for the rest of the video, we will be getting into very specific scientific properties that explains why climate change, why destroying the environment causes the rise in the temperature of the climate of the atmosphere. And they are as follows. First and foremost, the body of science concerning climate is very extensive, but also very manageable if taken in small bites. It's very extensive, but it's very manageable if taken in very small steps and very small pieces. This is what we will be doing. We'll be taking it in small steps and in small segments, because that's the only way that we can see the big picture. So the body of science of our climate is very extensive, but for this video we'll be limited it first to two of the most critical and important scientific properties as it relates to climate change, and they are as follows. 1. Specific heat capacity of a substance. 2. The thermal conductivities of a substance. These are the two most important heat-related scientific property that we'll be using exclusively for the first two, this video and the next video coming up, in which we'll be debunking carbon dioxide, the burn of fossil fuel. As the video series continues, we'll be introducing and exploring other heat-related scientific topics such as thermodynamics, which is the flow of heat in, around, and out of a system. The Earth is a system, can be considered as a thermodynamic system because heat comes in from the sun, heat goes out from the Earth to the higher upper cold troposphere, and heat moves around the Earth, the planet. So the Earth can be considered a dynamic thermodynamic system. Latent heat and evaporation, the greatest source of absorption and transfer of heat in our environment. These are topics that we'll be looking into in later topic, because we can't put everything into one at the same time. It will be the video will be too long and cumbersome. So to make sure that each topic gets its fair attention, we are going to be breaking up these topics in later series videos as the series progresses. Infrared radiation, this is a big one. The main source of heat of the Earth. This topic will be the most eye-opening in regards to climate change, because a lot of people have been given a lot of misinformation concerning infrared radiation, and we are going to we're going to put everything into proper perspective as time goes by, and more of the video are released and exposed. And finally, we're going to be looking at the gas law, because climate change involves a lot of the atmosphere. It's all about the atmosphere getting hotter. So we need to know the gas laws and how the atmosphere interact with temperature, pressure, and volume. In this slide, we will be defining a specific heat capacity. And as you can see from the diagram, this is the amount of energy needed to raise the temperature of 1 kilogram of a material by 1 degrees Celsius or Kelvin. It is measured in joules per kilogram Kelvin or joules per kilogram Celsius, and represents a change in temperature of the amount of heat that is required to change a temperature of a specific material by 1 degrees Celsius. Every type of substance on Earth has a very specific heat capacity, and this is a scientific property that best explains the reason for our change in our immediate climate with the destruction of the environment. The specific capacity of a substance is a measure of how much heat the substance can absorb, how long it will hold on to the heat, how fast does it heat up, how fast does it cool down, and therefore the higher the specific heat capacity of a substance, the more heat it can hold, the longer it will hold on to the heat, the slower it will heat up, and the slower it will cool down. Therefore, the higher the specific capacity of a substance, the better that substance is at moderating its temperature, and also the temperature of the air that surrounds it, surrounds and interact with it. So in this slide, we'll be looking at the specific heat capacity range for all relevant environmental matter as it relates to climate change. And as you can see from this diagram, which is a comparative analysis of all environmental matter, listed on your left as substance, where they are break down into water, which is the hydrosphere, organic matter, which is the biosphere, the atmosphere, which is here, and inorganic material, which is the lithosphere. As you go across the diagram, you see there's example of each of these matter, and listed is the specific heat capacity in terms of the highest to the lowest. So as you can see, water has the highest specific heat capacity of all environmental matter, and it's only third behind hydrogen and helium in regards to how strong, how high it is. Just a matter of noting that hydrogen and helium, which has the first and second highest specific capacity, is found exclusively in the sun. Hydrogen is a nuclear fission to helium, and a vast amount of energy is released by these two gases. So after water, then comes organic matter, which has a specific capacity of 1200 to 3900 joules per kilogram Kelvin, followed by the atmosphere, which just runs at about 1000, a little bit over 1000 joules per kilogram per Kelvin, and this number is an average of nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon dioxide, water vapor in the atmosphere. Coming in dead last is, of course, the inorganic material, which runs between 100 and 900 joules per kilogram Kelvin. It is important to know that this sort of comparative analysis you will never find anywhere in the on the internet, because it does not lend to the credence of climate change due to the burn of fossil fuel. Once you understand specific E capacity and understand the diagram as you're looking at them right now, you will easily discern that burning of fossil fuel is not what causes climate change, and this is what's causing climate change. So again, during my during the course, you'll be seeing quite a few comparative analysis of substance related to each other that you will never find on the internet, because these are too damning in regards to the information that does not support the claim that carbon dioxide is the main cause of climate change. We will now be looking at the thermal conductivity as the second important scientific property. And quite simply put, the thermal conductivity is a measure of how fast heat is transferred across a specific substance, atoms, ions, or molecule, as shown by the diagram to your left. Every substance on Earth has a well-documented and specific thermal conductivity rate. You have to be aware of that. The closer the individual matters are, i.e. the ions, atoms, molecules, the higher the thermal conductivity will be. Therefore, solids tend to have a higher thermal conductivity than liquid, which tend to have a higher thermal conductivity than gases. The higher the thermal conductivity of a substance, the faster this substance will heat up and cool down than any other substance with a lower thermal conductivity, and also hold on to less of the heat as it cools down, passing it up or giving it up to those substances of higher thermal conductivity, or of low thermal conductivity. Conductor therefore has a higher thermal conductivity than insulator, as they heat up and cool down much faster than insulators. Inorganic material tend to have a higher thermal conductivity than organic material, as they transfer the heat across their structure much faster, heat up and release the heat to the atmosphere much faster, and cool down and subtract heat from the atmosphere much faster. Inorganic solid substance such as metal has the highest thermal conductivities, followed by ionic bonded material or substance. Covalent bonded ion organic substances tend to have a lower thermal conductivities. Gases have very low thermal conductivities to the point where they can all be classified as insulated. Therefore, all the atmospheric gas are in fact greenhouse gas in effect. It is important to look at the relationship between these two very important each related scientific property, specific capacity and thermal conductivity, because they are related and they are interrelated, and the combination of properties in a particular substance determine how good or how bad this property, this substance, will moderate its temperature. So let's have a look. The substances with high specific heat capacity tend to have a lower thermal conductivity and vice versa. Substances with high specific heat capacity and low thermal conductivity are very good at moderating temperature changes than substances with low specific heat capacity and high thermal conductivity. Therefore, metal has a very high thermal conductivity, tend to have a very low or low specific heat capacity, and heats up and cool down very quickly, and does not trap or hold heat as much. Water on the opposite end of the spectrum have a very high specific heat capacity and a very low thermal conductivity and will heat up and cool down very slowly while at the same time hold on to a huge amount of this heat longer. Organic material also has a very high specific heat capacity and low thermal conductivity and are thus very good at moderating temperature. Gases tend to have specific capacity and thermal conductivity combination that gives them medium heat moderating capabilities. Inorganic matter have specific capacity and thermal conductivity combination, which includes metal, that gives them the lowest temperature moderating abilities. We will now look at the industry with the greatest climate change footprint. Industry with the single greatest climate change footprint is strip and open pit mining industry for metal used in the making of electric battery for electric vehicles, and for the following reason. As they totally remove huge swaths of pristine land, exposing the bare soil, the bare rocks and soil to the sun that eat up the atmosphere much quicker and hotter. The land is further polluted by the chemical used to extract the metal, making the regrowth of plants very unlikely. The industry also uses a very high volume of water that is taken from the watershed, making the land drier. This water that is used is also itself made polluted and becomes useless and detrimental to biological environment, biological organism. Huge waste and misdirection of resources that could have been better service to mankind. The industry is useless and impossible without the fossil fuel industries, as the car batteries need the burn of fossil fuel to first create electricity on which it runs. The product of the industry is further harmful to the environment, as the battery, once spent, is of no other use, and is also corrosive to the environment and not recyclable. The cities can be described as the great climate influencers. Cities are great contributors to climate change for the following reasons. They replace organic materials such as trees and other vegetation with mostly inorganic matter such as roads, buildings, and cars. They divert huge amount of water directly from the land to supply the city needs. Most of the water is directly diverted from dams and reservoirs to the house and factory, where it is used and consumed, and the rest then sent directly to the sewage station via the sewage system, and finally back to the sea and lake, totally bypassing the soil and land. Cities are encouraged and place an ever-increasing pressure on soil and land in areas outside the city themselves to provide food via large-scale plant and animal monoculture, which eventually lead to degradation of the soil from the increasing reliance of pesticide and fertilizer to maintain the productivity of the land. It is important to note that at any given time during a warm day, the ambient temperature over the city is much hotter than over the suburbs, and also hotter than the air, much hotter than the air over a forested area. And just to summarize all that we have talked about before, environment destruction means actively reducing the overall specific heat capacity and increasing the thermal conductivity of the material in the environment from a high water and organic matter content to one of a much lower water and higher inorganic matter content. With that comes the reduced ability of the environment to adequately moderate temperature from the heat of the sun and its increased ability to quickly increase it in temperature and start releasing heat to the atmosphere. This leads to the hotter and hotter land surfaces and a corresponding increase in atmospheric air in the temperature of the atmosphere above it. The extra heated climate is usually in one where this type of temperature is not common or natural and have an adverse effect on plant and animal and the environment. The extra heat produced does not only affect the area in which the heat is produced, but air mass tend to move normally in a lateral direction into cooler area and thus affect those adjacent cooler climate as well, heating them up. So how can we reverse this trend and make it right again? The main way to reverse this trend is as follows. The cessation of the misinformation of people about the real cause of climate change, and stop placing the blame on the burden of fossil fuel that has nothing to do with climate change and everything to do with man prosperity and goodwill, or man prosperity and well-being. Understand that some level of climate change would have been unavoidable with mankind exponential growth over the last centuries, and that it would not represent it does not represent an existential threat to mankind as the climate alarmists have had us believe. Third, totally abandon the mass production of electric vehicles, and which is the single most destructive human endeavor to the environment and the greatest contributor to climate change. 4. Mankind have instinctively understood that its welfare is directly related to the land and the place it call home, and have already enacted many environmental protection practices and procedures which are working well. However, we all need to fully understand the importance of this factor. We need to understand that climate change is not fatalistic but very easily reversible if we all play in the recarbonizing, rehydrating, and protection of our environment.